Hi, Miss Winston.
Oh, Mr. Roy, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
Thank you for coming up. Please have a seat.
Thank you so much. How's your day been?
Good. How was your trip coming here?
Oh yeah, it was a bit hectic.
Oh.
But I managed it.
Oh, what happened? What?
There I had to wait for a little bit. The transit was a bit long.
Oh.
I knew that, it was a long wait.
Yeah.
But I managed. I have been doing so many trips like this over the past few years.
Yeah.
And
kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, so can I offer you anything? Tea, coffee,
A little bit of water would be okay.
Water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, 1 minute.
Yeah.
Will fruit water do?
That looks amazing. Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
Your office is so nice.
Oh,
I
thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we have been building it for quite some time, so we're happy with what we have at the moment.
Yeah. And you obviously have been taking very wise decisions.
Yeah. Yes,
yeah.
It comes with the growth is seen everywhere with such offices and and the stuff that we have.
Let me just say at the outset, I'm so glad to having this meeting with you.
Yes.
And I really hope that we can reach a negotiation, reach an arrangement.
Yeah.
So really glad to see you.
Oh, brilliant! I actually echo your thoughts. I'm really happy that we're actually at this point whereby we can set the ball rolling and start with the nitty-gritty of seeing this project becoming a reality.
Yeah, that's the dream. Thank you.
Yeah, so if I could just, maybe if you agree to the agenda for today.
Sure.
We have right about 8 points that we need to discuss with as the foundation to the other discussions to come.
Okay.
Yeah, and just want to see if it's okay with you if we just go through them in a high level, just to get a feel of where each of us stand.
Yeah.
And then we can go into the nitty gritty moving on.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Cool. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe I can start off with. Some of the terms.
Okay.
So for us, we were looking at obviously the equity percentage.
Right.
That we have. That will be formed by this.
Okay.
Also looking at some subtle issues like the type of stock and dividends.
Yeah.
Rights.
Yeah.
And the type of board members, and shares,
right,
amongst others. Are there any that you would like to also look into?
Whatever you said, so definitely the equity percentage, that's something that you'd be interested in.
Okay.
Type of stock, dividends, yes. Anti-dilution rights.
Yes.
And the board members, which I heard as per our last conversation, you really wanted to discuss about that as well. So yeah, those are the main things that I would like to discuss. But if there are other things that you think might be important, we can go through them as well.
Yeah. Cool. So to you, what are the burning issues, if I might call them that?
First of all, definitely the fact that I think definitely equity percentage. So we can start with that. Do you think that's fair? Do you think we should start with that?
We could look into equity percentage. Are there any other issues that are almost like a deal no deal type of situation?
Well, yeah, I'm glad that you asked, because I think there are 2 issues that are very close to my heart, and I would really not like to deviate from the position that I hold currently.
Yes.
And they are the replace with CEO replacement provision, and the no shop provision. So those are really some things that I think are non-negotiables from where I'm coming, but definitely we can. As we proceed, probably definitely I would like to know what you have to say as well.
Okay, cool. Just before we go into the complexity of each and every point, just like some clarifications as yet. So I know you've been here for 4 years. The company has been going on for 4 years, and you have some shareholders at the moment, if I'm not mistaken. So if I might ask, how many shareholders do you have currently?
I'm sure as you might know, like being in the business for this long, I cannot really divulge the number or the details of the shareholders. I can give you a rough estimate since I really consider you to be a a very important shareholder, probably possible investor. We have the range of 2 to 3 investors right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
And do you have any board members currently? Who are the board members, if you have any?
Yes, we have 3 board members currently, including myself.
Oh, okay. So you have 2 others.
And 2 others, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, so I was talking about the board members.
Right.
Are they people who are within the industry or?
Yes, so our board members currently are 2 very experienced members from the aerospace industry who have been bringing a lot of knowledge and insights into the company, and it's primarily with their help and expertise that we have been growing. We have been able to grow and be successful. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And unless I think it would be okay for me to now delving into the 8 points that you want to talk about. So if we start with the equity percentage, what is the current valuation for the company at the moment?
It's definitely between 250 to 300 million.
Is that post
investment valuation?
Post investment?
Yes, post investment valuation. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So we assume that with the kind of growth that we have seen in the past, as well as our projections that we have, we are definitely going to grow. If we are able to get proper investments, including from the likes of yours, we are definitely going to grow at a very aggressive rate.
Okay.
And the post-investment valuation is definitely going to be 250 to 300 million.
Okay, so what growth rate are you looking at?
It's it depends on the time period that we're talking about. So definitely,
you know the one that you've used to calculate the current valuation.
We have used. I think it was done using different projections, so it's giving one figure is a bit difficult, but at least I think we are seeing 25 to 30% of growth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I could be wrong because there are lots of figures here. So but I could be wrong with that percentage figure. Yeah. But the final figure that we arrived at using, and we went over this calculation number of times. The final figure that we arrived at is definitely 250 to 300 million. But if you want the actual percentage, I could probably go back and do a calculation, see if that is really required right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to understand the ballpark in which you're operating under, because that's the case. I'm assuming you are projecting that this will continue and or increase. Yeah. Because as you know, as a VC family, we also did
growth is very important.
Some of our valuations, and it's not quite the same range as yours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so we were looking at between 68% in terms of our percentage.
So are you talking about the equity percentage?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is mainly because of the risk-reward ratio that we are looking at. You have to appreciate that safety is quite critical. Any single misstep, and it can really damage the company moving forward.
Okay.
Another thing is, for example, the fact that this is actually a pioneer market.
Yeah.
It's never been done before, and unlike others which have been tried and tested, and the risks here, there are risks that are unforeseeable because we are human,
right.
Among other things. So with that, we came to a calculation of about 68%.
Okay, so I completely, I do understand your position where you're coming from, but this is a very new market, and that is very exciting as well. Venture capitalists like yourself, I'm sure that you try to invest in markets which are exciting,
yes,
and which have not been tried and tested, but which have a huge potential of growth. And I'm sure that that this market and this industry of suborbital space travel, as well as our company, has a huge potential of growth. I hope you agree with that.
I agree.
Yes, thank you. And so, even looking at, if we look at our past performance,
yes,
then we have already been able to do a number of suborbital journeys, and they have been very successful. We haven't had any failures. And so, looking at that and looking at, probably you have had a chance of going through some of the kind of work that we have done and what we are going to do. You have an idea of our business plan and the zeal, the eagerness with which we approach our work.
Yes.
We are really into this, and we know as well as you do that this is going to be a huge success.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time. Everyone's space is the next frontier, and everyone is going to be on this. It's just a matter of time. We are really the front runners.
Yeah.
So it's I won't say it's going to be a life. I say that it's risky, but risky is something that you deal with, and that's why venture capitalism is so important for entrepreneurs like us to grow.
Yes.
But having said that, I must also say that 68% is going to be too high. The figure that I have is definitely something between 42 to 46%. Our valuation is as I told you, 250 to 300 million, and it can even go higher, depending on the successes that we have. And I'm sure that with the kind of success that we have had in the past, as well as we are going to have in the future, you're more than going to be, you're beyond safe. You're going to be able to recoup whatever you're going to, put in 10 times over in a few years.
Okay.
So 42 to 46% is definitely the figure that we're looking at. But we are ready to go up a little bit, just a notch, depending on the values on our agreements over the other terms that we talked about.
Okay, so you can ask how high are you willing to?
Well, right now, since I haven't gone through the rest, I would say that let's start with this figure, 42 to 46, and then depending on the other agreements, we could probably come back to this if that is okay with you.
Okay, but before moving on, I'd just like you to understand my point of view, because the whole idea of asking for such a high percentage is it's nothing to do with control, but more of a security measure. The industry is, as you know, as I said, it's a pioneering one, and we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And we have to also take into consideration the fact that there will be, competitors who will be coming, and we have to fend them off for real. And then, obviously, for example, if God forbid one of the, shuttles go up and there's failure in that, by the time that it will take us to recoup the standard of all the achievements that we would have made to date, it will be quite detrimental. Yet we will have illiquid securities in which to work upon.
Right.
So, we'll be working at almost like a deficit until we get back the confidence of our customers. And it's with those, concerns that I put it at such a level. And I'm also willing to, play around with that, because at the end of the day, my concern is not influence rather than just, having that security that if anything should happen, we will be able to, be at somewhat of, have a cushion, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah.
I do completely understand. Thank you for explaining your position. I do understand the worries that you have, and it's very, it's not unusual at all, because this is completely uncharted territory, suborbital space. But I'm sure that but I'll just again repeat that suborbital travel, what we are doing, it's 10 times safer than orbital travel. So the dangers that you talked about, it's more in orbital travel and less in 10 times less in suborbital travel. So the chances of that happening is very, very less.
Yeah.
And also that is borne out by our history, as we have said. And you can definitely look what we have done with our past journeys into the suborbit. We haven't had any failures, and we are continuously improving. So the chances of failure happening are very, very, very low. And also that being that is one point, and the second point is my hands are really tied in this, because this is a new fledgling company that we have. It's just growing, and at this stage, if I give up more than 50% of shareholder, then that would mean giving up majority stake in the company, and that actually can translate to various kinds of negative emotions when it comes to other shareholders, because they see me as a kind of trailblazer, and they look up to me, and being able to hold that kind of a position in the company where I am I am the majority shareholder, or we have not lost majority shareholder to any other entity. It's very important for an up and coming organization company like ours. I'm sure you understand that. So going above 50% is really very difficult for us. Yeah.
Well, I totally understand, and maybe we could get back to this, but just before we move on, to reiterate the fact that it's mainly about security. Yeah, and we can obviously talk about other issues that will still maintain, your authority. And your presence as a pioneer and as the helm of the company, without having that perception does not really have to be hurt by an equity percentage, so to speak.
But definitely I understand what you're saying, but I think we can also look at the alternative of you being able to recoup whatever you're investing in case such a mishap occurs, because even if such a mishap occurs, it's not going to happen for all the fleets that we have. So it's going to happen at most. It's not going to happen, but if it does happen, it's going to happen for only maybe at most say one space shuttle which goes up, and so the loss in that case will be much lower than what you are going to invest in our company. So I think if you can see it from my point of view, for something which has a 0.000001% chance of occurring, and in even if that occurs, the loss of that, the financial loss of that is going to be definitely in millions, or not in hundreds of millions. So for us to be thinking about giving up a majority stakeholder, majority shareholder.
If we park that for a moment and talk about the type of stock, obviously being a good significant shareholder here, would obviously prefer the redeemable preferred, especially taking into consideration that we might be receiving a lower percentage in terms of equity exchange. What do you think about that?
First of all, most of the employees, all the employees almost, have common stock for us in our company. But I'm ready to look into redeemable preferred if we are able to agree on other terms as well.
Okay. That's good. At least that's a starting point. I also wanted to look at the dilution rates because I think they kind of go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, for the same reasons as before, in terms of the percentage of equity, we would want to be able to, continue solidifying this partnership. So, should there occur an opportunity whereby you might need more equity and you're willing to float shares, would prefer to have the first pick of this. So, in that sense, have the VC right of first refusal. I think that's a fair ask.
Yeah, I think since depending on the kind of involvement that I'm sure you're going to be very involved with our growth and the kind of help that we're going to get.
Yeah.
We definitely I do agree that you should have the right of first refusal. So that's only fair. So I do not have any problem with that. But having said that, I would really like to probably agree on VC equity percentage and type of stock.
Yes.
And dividends, if possible.
Okay, so I gave you my percentage, and you actually gave me a range between 42 and 46. So if we are speaking of realistic terms, what do you see yourself giving?
Honestly, I giving more than 50% would mean that I'm going to give up majority equity, majority hold in the company.
Okay.
So it's going to be very difficult for me. I can look at the range of 42 to 46%. I think that is the range that I gave you before also. So I am ready to go up to 46%, but that's the highest that I can go up to. Because at this early stage, I'm not willing to give up majority stake in my own company.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from with that, but I hope you also then be willing to consider the dividends that you'll be considering giving us should we accept the amount that you're saying, because how we look at it is getting even 50% and being equal equity partners. It's mainly for security purposes, and not for influence. We don't see us coming in and telling you what to do in terms of how you want to run your business. It's just in terms of security, and when I say security, I mean the fact that we are venturing into new territories. As you can imagine, there's you don't know what competitors that you might have to fend off in the near and long future, know?
Yeah.
And also dealing with the fact that these are illiquid securities, so to speak. So being able to recoup everything might, it's an uphill task.
Right.
So I would be open to consider the amount given should you be able to also help me with some of the other factors, and one of it being obviously the dividends that are there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So do you have a figure in mind for the dividends?
So the industry average for the dividends are 8%.
Right.
Yes. So we are willing to go with that, with the industry average.
Okay. That's, I think, so when you talk about industry, you mean aerospace industry in a general way, or do you mean aerospace industry specifically focused on suborbital travel as we are doing?
Obviously, there is no vast information in suborbital travels, as you might well imagine. There are not so many players that are there. So what we do is we take the average aerospace industry and obviously adjust that accordingly to the sensitivity and scenario analysis and come up with this percentage.
See, that's the problem that I have, because when you talk about the aerospace industry, I understand that it's very difficult to come up with a figure which is very specific to the kind of work that we are doing with our company. But 8%, like given the kind of dynamics or the kind of parameters that we are working with, it's very, very volatile. Everything is very, very volatile, and we need to channelize whatever profit or whatever cash that we are being able to generate back into our business, so as to ensure that we can function and we are able to survive and we are able to thrive. So from that perspective, I hope you will be able to appreciate my position when I say that 8% is way too high. So it has to be lower, and it's going to be only for the two, it's going to be mutually beneficial, because we'll be able to inject more cash and equities for the growth of the organization, at least in these very beginning stages. So I think we can come back to this later. Once we have agreed on at least 1, 2, and 4.
Yes.
Do you want to go on to other terms like appointed board members and vesting, or do you want to agree on 1, 2, and 4 right now?
Why don't we actually go to the board members, because I feel that some of the agreements that we make will obviously influence how it goes on. So you told me that you actually have current board members. How many are they at the moment?
It's a board of 3 members, like myself, and 2 other very experienced players and members who have been working in the aerospace industry for a very long time. So they are bringing a lot of expertise and insights into the way we work, and they have been really helpful in ensuring that we grow.
So are they your former colleagues?
Yes, they were. Yeah, so that's how it started, and that's how I got them in. So I would like to basically keep it. So before we go ahead, do you have any? Do you think you have a particular number of board members in mind?
Yes, actually, would ideally want to have as many board members, but we understand that the company is still growing, and it is good to have quite a small number at the moment, and it should grow with the company. So I had 2 members in mind, and I'll give you the reasons why. One, looking at the profile of the type of expertise that are in place right now, it is quite rich, and I want people who are going to complement the richness of the board of members. As you can understand, the board is actually the engine of the company. It sets everything in motion. So I bring 2 members. One has a vast resume. It's quite an impressive portfolio in terms of strategic marketing and planning. So which is quite a significant part if we are to move forward, because right now we want to blow up, and we want to be able to capture every other person who has an inkling or an idea of wanting to go to space, and this required quite aggressive marketing. So I hope to bring that on board. And then another person that I want to bring is someone who is au fait with financial services. So they'll be able, these are people who might not have the technical expertise, because you already have it, and the other board members, but will be able to complement you. And there are people who have worked in the industry, so they understand it's not someone totally out of the blue. So with those 2, I believe it's enough in terms of the size, but also sufficient in terms of the expertise and what they bring in terms of moving the company forward.
I absolutely see from where you're coming from. But at this juncture, at this stage, as you can understand, our company is a very lean one. Our board is also very lean. So every even the tiniest amount of miscommunication or disagreement between the board members can actually steer the company in a very difficult, in a wrong direction, and it's very difficult to get the company back on track from that. And the more board members we have right now, the more divergence of opinion will obviously be there.
Yes.
So, although I agree completely with the fact that we need insights and feedback from experienced people like the members that you're talking about, I think right now it's too early for us to have more than more than one board member, because there are already three, and there might be and as the company grows, there might be other board members that come on board. There might be other members who become board members as well. So I think more than one would be too difficult, but we can definitely come back to this and see if there is a possibility of having more board members. So I think before we go on to the rest, like 6, 7, 8, because they are very, as I said before, probably they are like something which I consider to be very difficult to negotiate. Kind of negotiable for non-negotiables for me. I think it's better if we agree on the terms on the topics that we have discussed till now. That's 1, 2, 4, and 5 also. Why not 5? But number 3, dividends. I think there might be more parameters to this. So we might have to come back to this after we have visited 6, 7, 8. Do you think that's fair?
I think it's fair, and I think we can start with the board members, and I'll give you my reasons why. I say this from the many firms that I've had to deal with, and I give this as a conservative measure. It's not something that is a want, but rather a need, because I know that these are areas that need to be handled right now. Otherwise, I would agree with you. Let's just have one person, and along the way we can add another one. But these are expertise that are needed at this moment. Once we are able to inject, we are going to see the company pivot, and the growth will be really spontaneous, as what I've seen with some of the other companies, and we need this expertise on hand, and relationships take time. So we want to make sure that there's that dynamic that's already in place, so that 2-3 months down the road, when things are gelling up and things like that, everything has already been set in motion. And that's why I would insist on having 2 members, as to be able to set everything in motion. We want to do this right the first time round.
Sure, I see where you're coming from, but I think, given the setup that we have now, I strongly feel that 1 member would be sufficient, but I'm ready to work with 2 members, provided we reach an agreement as regards point number 1, 2, and 4.
Okay. So if we go back to 1, 2, and 4, I am willing to concede a less than average amount for as long as when we move into the other parameters, for example, 6, 7, and 8, and 3, which we haven't talked about, we'll be able to it will almost be like a give and take.
Right.
So let me concede to the 46% that you had said, subject to what happens next. So we can, as per now, agree to the 46%, and then the redeemable preferred shares, and the VC first right, refusal of first right, and also the 2 members as in terms of appointees.
Okay.
So at least we are seen to be halfway.
Okay.
Through. How does that sound?
That sounds good. That sounds good to me. So we can definitely move on.
Yeah. Do you want any refreshment, bathroom break, or
no? I'm good.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, cool. Yeah. So let's move on. How long do you see yourself at the company?
Oh, I see myself the company for as long as I am alive. Okay. I see the company as an extension of myself. This is something that I've given the last 5 most valuable years of my life to. It's an extension of myself, so it's definitely not something that I'm going to leave. I don't want to leave as anytime soon. So definitely, it's this is my one shot, and I've been able to. Thankfully, I've been able to do a good job thus far. So I think if I'm able to put in more of myself and my vision, then it's going to reach even greater heights.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah. Before we move on, I'd like to talk about the no-show provision, and with this, it's basically saying that. We agree that once we have agreed on the percentage, so at this point in time, being the 46% equity, that once we agree to all the terms and conditions, that you will not go and shop around for other deals from other VCs.
Right.
Is that something that you're willing to?
Well, not really, because I think it's a bit unfair for us to be prevented from trying our best to ensure that we get the kind of investment that we deserve to thrive, because there are so many competitors that we have. And although those competitors might be far away from us, far off from us in terms of the kind of innovation that they have been able to achieve, it's just a matter of time. So, for them to be able to catch up. So, if say anything, our agreement breaks down, and I'm not able to ensure I'm not able to get the kind of investment that I need, and I'm also prevented from going to another VC, then we'll get completely wiped out.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit unfair for us to prevent us. Prevent us from trying to reach out to other VCs in case just to have a safety net. That's all that we want. But having said that, I must also say that if we are able to reach a position where we are sure, 100% sure, that we have the kind of assurance that we're looking for, looking from you, and we are not going to go back at all on any of the terms that we decide upon today, and there is no room of any further negotiation, and we are assured of the kind of the investment, then definitely we're not going to shop around.
Okay, I'm very confident that we'll be able to reach, a middle ground with all the terms that we have in place.
Okay.
And I just like to assure you, with us, you're not just getting a person to give you cash. You're getting a partner who will be with you throughout the time, who will avail to you all the expertise that we have. And as you know, we've been around for a while, and we know the ins and outs of the industry enough to be able to, give you the best of the best in terms of expertise. And what we give is, the top management, we give you board of directors, we give you advisors, marketing and strategy people, being able to shape the company together. So we'll be hand in hand in this. So I think that value, accounts for more than, you might be able to get maybe a higher percentage than what you want with us, but the added value that we're giving, I think, is something that is attractive to anyone in your.
Yes, absolutely, and that's why, in spite of knowing it for a fact that there are other VCs who are very interested in what we are doing. Yes, but we do not know who they are, but we do know that there are other VCs and a number of other VCs. I came to you, because I have seen a reflection of my own passion in your organization.
We appreciate
Yes, absolutely, and the fact that you have so much expertise already that you're willing to share with us, and we are going to build a long-term relationship, not just a short-term profit and loss game here. So that is very important for me, and that's why we are having this conversation, and I'm really interested in working with you. I'm really interested in having you on board. But it is a business after all. So if something does break down, and if something does not work out between the two of us, then I think it should be only fair for us to go forward and to at least try and find another source of cash, another source of finance investment, so that we can at least survive. Because without this $100 million, it's going to be very difficult for us to grow, and without growth, there is no survival in this industry. So I think it would be really unfair for us to not to have this provision in the contract. I'm ready to stop shopping, so as to say, if we can agree to sign a formal stock purchase agreement, provided we agree on all the terms today itself. And we do not have to. In that case, we won't have to double. We don't have to get back to any of the other terms at all.
I think that sounds fair for both our sides.
Okay,
brilliant. So let's go back to your much taken to heart term in terms of the CEO replacement provisions. Actually, let's scratch that. Let's talk about the dividends. I told you that the industry averages 8%, and you intimated to me that might be a bit difficult, especially taking into consideration that you would need cash to be retained in the business, so to sustain its growth, so to speak. And this is something that I appreciate, obviously, but I did not see how much you're willing to concede in terms of giving us, because you have to also take into consideration before you say your figure, is the fact that we might be willing to take a lower than average percentage in terms of equity, so we would need a bit of giveaway in terms of the dividend.
Yes. I think keeping in mind the fact that we are still growing and we need all the cash that we can to be injected back in the system for us to be able to keep up with the innovation that we're foreseeing in the recent future, in the near future. I think a figure of 1 to 2% is something that we really think would be fair. Because the more cash we take away, be it cash or be it equity, it's basically we'll be shooting ourselves in the feet if we do not try to ensure that we can get as much value as possible back into the system at this stage. But having said that, it's definitely it's definitely not something that we see ourselves giving out as dividends to you in the long term. This is definitely in the short term right now, because it's not only for us or for the company. It's for ensuring that the both of us can grow. Because if we are able to channelize the percentage, the dividend as much as possible into the system, then we'll grow and it'll ensure our survival, and that is what you want as well, right?
Of course.
So coming from that, from that perspective, I think 1 to 2% is something that would be fair. But I would like to hear your views on that.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I agree with the fact that we need to inject the money back into the business. Having said that, I think 1 to 2% is quite low, and especially considering the fact that we are getting lower than what we had asked for in terms of the equity exchange. However, if we are able to meet halfway in terms of the dividends, then it's something that we can negotiate upon. I have to say that this is not the norm, but I'm taking here almost a leap of faith, so to speak. I think I'm getting infected by your positivity here. And, so we can meet halfway, whereby I feel that at least I'm getting a bit of what I lost in terms of the equity percentage, but not squeezing you out completely. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I think that's fair. But in terms of figures, what are you looking at?
I was looking at 5%.
That could be difficult. I think I could the best I can do honestly is 4%. The best, the very best. But I would need to agree. I would need us to agree on like 1, 2, 3, and 4 as well. Before we can probably agree on this. So do we have an agreement for 1, 2, 3, and 4? 1, 2, and 4. Sorry.
We have 1, 2, 4.
Yeah.
And 5 and 8.
Right. Yeah. So 1 would be. Are you ready? Are you okay with 46%?
I think I would be okay with 46% if you're. I don't see much of a difference between the 4 and 5%. So I would like to understand why you can't do
5%. It's basically so that we want to be as far away as possible from losing majority share. So even though it's a fact that with 49% we are not going to be losing majority share, it's very near to that. And we would want to be. It's basically we would like it to be as low as possible right now, because as you can understand, it's a company which is just growing. It's a nascent company. So the higher equity percentage we take out, the higher the greater is the loss of control that we and other shareholders have at the company. So I would like to keep that at a very low rate, low stage right now, low level, and I would like us, the board members, to have as much control as possible, because I think the growth that has come about and the innovation that has come about is only through majority control, and I would like to keep it that way, at least for the time being. So I could. I think 46% is something that definitely we could work on.
Yes.
As a middle way.
Yes.
Yeah. So with the redeemable preferred stocks that you're getting, and that's definitely something that no other shareholders are getting right now.
Yeah. So
you're getting a preferential treatment there as well. With the redeemable preferred stocks that you're getting, and with the I'm ready to agree to the VC rights of first refusal as well.
Yeah.
So I think we can have an agreement of 46% if you're okay with it.
Okay. But why don't we do 47 then? Okay, let's put a lid on this.
Okay.
So if we do 46, and then we do redeemable preferred, and then we do your 4%, and we do the VC first right refusal, and then 2 members,
right,
and the no shop provision, then we can go ahead and talk about the vesting of the founder's share and the CEO replacement position.
Yeah.
But as we go into this, I think it's worth taking note that I have considered a lot in terms of the equity.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Yeah, sure.
So
yeah, I have noted that. Thank you so much.
And I hope we can be able to meet halfway with this. Understand that you're not really eager to leave the company, the CEOship to someone else, and I can understand your passion in wanting to see this through.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think it's only fair, speaking realistically, to put benchmarks or stipulations in place.
Right.
Yeah, to be able to almost act like a guide for you, to be able to, everyone needs targets. As you can imagine, you have your employees at this time, and they have targets in which they have to meet, they have guidelines in which they have to, field in which they play in, and that's how I look at it, to be able to nurture you as a CEO and to be able to help you along the way. So we had put benchmarks in place, and I hope that is something that you're okay with.
So what kind of benchmarks are you looking at? So first of all, let me tell you that this is really really a tad disappointing for me to be even considered. I mean, to even have this provision in our agreement, because I have built this company from scratch. I've given it my everything, and so even being considered, even the prospect of me losing the CEO post designation is something which is basically equivalent to me as losing control, as giving up my dream, as being a second class worker in my own company. It is because like, I understand that there are different people who, like, a company cannot survive on one person. I completely understand that and agree with that. But having said that, it is the CEO's vision which drives the company, and it has been my vision which has been driving the company this long. And there are people who look up to me, my team members, and it is basically the company. Still now, it is my philosophy which has been driving the company, and I do not see myself anywhere else other than this company. So for me to even consider the possibility that I might lose the position of CEO, like, no matter how far-fetched that might be, it is quite, it's a bit unthinkable. It is very difficult for me to fathom and digest. But as you said, that there needs to be metrics and there needs to be checks. So having that in mind, although I do not, again, I'm saying I do not agree with this, that I should be replaced as a CEO at any level. Or what kind of projections are you talking about, if I may ask?
So obviously, we are looking at the aggressive projections. And even before saying that, I need you to understand where we are coming from with this. And it's based on the experience that I have had. You, at this point in time, are the CEO, you are the founder, you are a board member, you have very many hats that you wear. And as the company grows, you will be stretched. So it's just almost foreseeing into the future and understanding where you would be better placed. You are the vision of the company. It is with your values and your philosophy that the company has run to date. And I see you more as someone who, will be the engine, as I said, working within the board to set the strategic, vision of the company. And it's with that I would bring this suggestion. And then you can be, someone can take over, someone who has had the experience with being a CEO, someone who knows the industry in and out, and will be able to, treat it with the utmost respect that you as a founder would like it to be treated, because we do not want to stretch you. But I understand you wanting to see your baby grow. And I understand it from a perspective where I've also been an entrepreneur. And I understand the passion that you have and your motives for doing this. With that said, we have to put metrics in position, and while there might be very many variables in place, we have the utmost belief that you can be able to hit these targets that we set for you. It's not stuff that is unrealistic or out of the blue. The idea is not to set you up for failure. The idea is to see you surpass what is there. And so we were looking at aggressive projection.
Thank you for your point of view and for sharing what you believe. But I think having aggressive projections while giving the valuation of the company is very different from having aggressive projections while deciding whether I should be replaced with a CEO if there is a fall in the performance for 1 year or not. Because as a CEO also, there are only so many things that I can control. There are too many things, too many variables which are beyond my control. And so if one of those variables result in a fall of performance of my company for 1 year, I think it should not be, it's not fair for me to be replaced as a CEO, because the care and the passion and the love that I bring for my company it is very, very unlikely that can be echoed by any other CEO who comes in from any other organization, any other company.
We don't aim to clone you. We're looking for someone to help you so that you don't get burnt out. And I know I have seen this from experience that you're trying to do 110 things at the same time, and I know you're brilliant, but you're also human. And there'll come a point whereby you cannot juggle all these balls, and that it's with this foresight that I bring up. That suggestion.
But so that is I mean, we can do that even with conservative projections, right? I mean, if we have conservative projections, that gives me a better assurance that you are more willing to put your trust in me, and probably give me a better leeway of a higher amount of control in ensuring that I stay with the organization, and I am not moved out of the company just if there is and I'm not moved out of the company if there is just one. If there is a mishap which happens only in 1 year, so because I thrive in chaos, and I mean, if I see that I'm being stretched too thin, then I'm definitely going to move myself away from too many things at the same time. But just the thought of being moved, of being deprived of the post designation of CEO being snatched away from me, it gives me goosebumps. I cannot even think of that. So I think since there are so many variables which can result in a bad performance, and that is the metrics that we're looking at, I think it is only fair that having considered what I have already put into the company and what I'm ready to put in, we should be looking at conservative projections.
Is there any reason, a specific reason that you're thinking of a conservative projection rather than even a moderate or an aggressive projection, considering what you just said, your resume to date, and the projections that you as a company have given us? If I'm not mistaken, you expect a 25 to 30% growth. What motivations give you the ability to say a conservative projection? Because to me, it makes me a bit concerned as an investor, and it translates to you not having confidence in either the projections that you have or your capability of handling this, because the variables are going to be there, and they're already catered for in all the projections that are stated in place. So I'm a bit
it's more about where you're coming from. As I said before, I think it's these are two quite different things. So conservative, the aggressive projections are the projections that I've used in showing that the limit to which we can grow and that is something that we definitely believe we can grow and like live up to.
Okay, so the 25 to 30% is an aggressive growth rate?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so what is a conservative growth rate in your opinion? Because I had the idea that this is an average.
Yeah, so I do not really have the figures with me right now. Like I can send the figures to you. Like I can work with my team just to send the figures to you immediately, like to the evening as soon as possible.
Okay.
But I do understand where you're coming from. You need figures to understand, because our definitions of the projections might be different. But like you do have a certain degree, an idea of conservative projections or moderate projections, right? So I think our definition is not too far from that definition. Mm-hmm. And I think like conservative projections would be somewhere around 8 to 10% of growth. So I think that is definitely much lower than the aggressive projections. I agree.
Yes.
But my only concern is that what is at stake here? What is at stake here, is the fact that I will be stripped of the designation of the CEO. For the company performing, not as per expectations for maybe a very short period of time, maybe 1 year. But do you think it is completely fair for someone to be stripped of their their designation as CEO, to be told that they are not worthy of continuing as the head of the company? For something that is not really in their control, and that too for a very short period of time.
Yes.
That is one thing. And secondly, I would also like to bring to your attention the fact that if such an incident does come to pass, that my company does not perform as per expectations for a short period of time, do you think a CEO coming in from outside will really be able to be as effective in a short period of time as I will be, with the zeal and the involvement and the investment that I have in the company that I have created? I think as an investor, you should be. It is in your best interest as well to work with me in that kind of a scenario, to ensure that this sort of mishap does not happen again, and I can stay on as a CEO, and we can work on towards achieving the aggressive metrics.
No, I definitely understand and appreciate where you're coming from. In answer to the question that you're saying, if we bring in a CEO, a new CEO, it's someone who is seasoned, someone who has been through the ups and downs of the industry cycle. So it is not someone out of the blue. And while I appreciate the zeal that you come with, it's during such situations whereby experience counts so much more. And it does not actually mean that you not being the CEO means that you do not have a say. It is just that you are not, you're not running the companies in that capacity, but you definitely, your thoughts and your vision still counts. So that it's with that we want to safeguard, because we understand that you have experience, but the experience that you've had to date is as an engineer, and you're good at it, and that's why we are actually here at the table. It's your inventiveness, and you want to keep that alive and not boggle you down, in operations, and having to deal with the daily things. So that being said, I see these two terms as almost going hand in hand. So
you mean founders' shares?
Founders' shares and CEO replacement provisions. And since you've already said that you're going to be with us until the Lord calls you, so to speak, I would see as a measure of good faith in you actually writing down, about 10 years in terms of vesting the founders' shares. And I would understand that you would see this as probably what will happen until those 10 years. But to us, that's a mark of you having faith in the company and you being with the company through all this time.
Yes. I am definitely going to be with the company for as long as I can. So this is my dream. This is my child. This is my baby, and I'm going to this is the objective of my life now. This is my life story. So I do not see myself anywhere else other than with this company. So I think it's recording.
Okay, just double check.
So I do not see myself anywhere else other than with this company. And I think honestly the fact in the vesting of founders shares wherein my 100% of my equity shares will be taken away from me. And will only be given back to me over an extended period of time of 10 years. It's not, frankly, not acceptable at all, because no one knows what can happen over a period of 10 years. I'm not saying that it's going to be only my company which is going to be performing not well, or it's going to be somehow I will be responsible for something that goes wrong. But other than me or my company, there might be 1,000 different factors in the industry which might affect my company not performing properly. So in that case, keeping that in mind, I think 10 years is too long a period for a company like us, for an industry like us. And I think it is not completely fair for me to be vested of my control and my equity in my company, in a company that I have built from scratch for that long a period of time.
Okay, so what are you looking at?
I think 3 years would be good enough. In the beginning, I was not really, I was not willing at all to vest my shares at all, because I think it's frankly, it was not acceptable for me to be stripped of my shares, to be stripped of my own control in my company, because that is what it is, in a manner of speaking. But now that we are kind of agreeing on conservative projections, although we have not yet completely, but if we do agree on conservative projections, I think 3 years would be safe enough for me to have my shares being returned to me in cents.
I hear what you say, and I want you to understand it's not a ploy to strip you of anything. Sure. It's just one of the stipulations, to make sure that the deal goes through. So this is how I'm looking at it. I have to be honest with you that according to the calculations that we have made, and assessing your role within the company now, it would be quite detrimental for us and the company as a whole for you to go below 4 years. So I am willing to overlook the fact that you're actually suggesting conservative projection, and take that if you can actually see to it that you give me 4 years.
Okay. Before that, I mean, that is going to be very difficult for me. I think we'll have to come back to that. But before we come back to that and agree on a figure, I think we already have agreements with respect to all other terms, right?
Yes, we do.
So if we could just go through that once before we finalize with this one.
Okay.
So VC equity percentage was 46%, you said?
Yes.
We agreed on, we agreed on.
Yeah.
Type of stock would be definitely redeemable preferred.
Yes.
Dividends. Oh, dividends we have not agreed on. Dividends we have not agreed on yet. Okay. Anti-dilution rights. It's going to be VC right of first refusal.
Yes.
VC appointed board of members is going to be 2 members. I think we agreed on that.
Yes.
Vesting of founders shares we have not yet agreed on. CEO replacement provision. So yeah, this is also contingent upon vesting of shares.
Yeah.
And no shop provision is provision not included, but we are going to completely seal this deal today, and there's going to be no more like 30-day or 60-day window where there might be an opportunity for you to renegotiate with us.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to finalize number 6 and 7 first, or do you want to complete dividends first? What I say is let's complete 6 and 7 because they seem to be related.
Okay.
The only reason that I'm saying, so could you explain to me what difference does 1 year make? Because I'm saying 3 years.
Yes. So according to according to the calculations that we made, if we do it below the 4 years that I told you about,
right,
it does not look well as far as the risk factors are concerned and the projections that are concerned. You have to take into consideration, number one, the role that you play currently.
Okay.
Just removing you prematurely will cause such a level of instability within the company that will see a domino effect in terms of negative repercussions. And that is something that you want to avoid should you want to venture out somewhere else. And that is why, according to our projection, that is the absolute minimum in which I can do. If I could be able to go lower in terms of the number, I would definitely look at 3 years, just because I have faith that this is something that will work. But for this instant, that is the absolute best that I can do.
Okay, thank you for sharing that with me. Now, from my point of view, basically, 1 year is so significant for me because it's 1 more year where I am running the risk of losing more control.
Yeah.
Because as I understand that 100% share, if it's returned on a 4-year period to me, I'm going to basically be out 25% even in the last year.
Yeah.
So if something goes wrong in the last year, which I'm sure it won't, but in just because we are considering all eventualities, if in case of that 0.001% of chance of something going wrong, I'm going to it's basically I'm going to be out of 25% of my share. That's going to be a significant loss of control in my own company.
Yeah.
So that is why that 1 year is so important for me.
Yeah.
But I think for us to be able to, that is definitely very, very difficult just because of that reason.
Yeah.
But it's not something that we can't agree on. So I think we can tie this in with the dividends that we have not yet decided on.
Okay.
And I think just to ensure that it's a win-win situation for the both of us.
Okay.
And we can do as much as we can to ensure that nothing bad really happens in the 4th year or in the 3rd year, and we are able to reach speed, which is going to a sustainable speed before that.
Yeah.
I think it's in both of our benefits that we channelize as much as dividends as possible towards the growth of the company. And so you gave a figure of 7%, or what was the figure that you gave? 5 to 7% for dividends?
No, I gave went down from 8 to 5%.
Okay, so I think we can agree on 4 or 5 years of vesting of founders shares. Sorry, not 5 years, definitely 4 years. Given that we are able to channelize, we give out dividends of only 4%, because it's not for me, as you can understand. it's for what we are building here. It's for the company and it's for the future of our relationship. It's for us to be able to ensure that we are doing as much as possible to maintain that rate of growth, which is essential for my company, for our company to survive and to thrive and to win over other competitors, to move to actually wipe them out. So for us to be able to do that, at the stage that we're in right now, we need to be able to get as much cash and equities as possible to, first of all, maintain the rate of innovation that we are doing right now, and second of all, to keep the morale of the people up. Because if I take away dividends from them in the form of cash, then I'm basically taking away cash from the system, which is not going to enable me to, which is not going to let me innovate at a rate that I really want to. And if I take away a dividend in the form of equities, then I'm basically turning people against me, because they, having given so much of their lives in this company, they demand and they deserve equities at the rate that they are getting. So basically, even when I do a 3 to 4% dividend, a 4% dividend, I am taking away a bit of that, but I'll manage that from my own shares. But I think going anywhere above that, it's going to be very difficult for me.
I thought you would meet in the middle in as far as the dividends are concerned, because what would be the major difference between the 4 and 5%?
Because here, even 1% is something which I want to divert back into the company, in the system.
Yeah.
So if possible, I would like to give you 2%, but you're definitely not going to be it's not going to meet your the metrics that you have, the parameters that you have. So for me, 0.5% is also extremely important, and 1% is definitely very important.
So if we agree to 4%, would you then agree to the 4 years under the vesting of founders' shares?
Yes, since you're saying that that's the best we can do, I think we can do that, provided we have a conservative projection for the CEO replacement provision.
Okay, I can do that as well. Let me just, if we can go through this again, so that we see that we are on the same page.
Sure.
So in terms of the equity percentage, it's 46%.
Right.
And then the type of stock. And the type of stock is the redeemable preferred.
That's right.
And the dividends would be 4%.
That's right.
And the anti-dilution rate will be VC of first refusal.
Correct.
The appointed members will be 2.
Right.
And the founders' shares will be 4 years.
Right.
And the CEO replacement provision will be a conservative one.
Right.
I say this begrudgingly. And the no-show provision is therefore included.
Yeah, but this is only subject to agree everything, and there
1 to 7 is okay.
Yeah, and there is a sign of stock purchase agreement immediately, and there is going to be no window where there's going to be room for you to probably renegotiate.
How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I think we have a deal already. Yeah, thank you so much for your understanding. And I'm so happy that we are going to be able to do this deal together.
I'm so glad that we have actually set the foundation for what we're going to do in the future. And I have a good feeling about this, Mr. Roy, and I think we are set for the stars.
Absolutely,
honestly.
yes, I believe that as well, because I think our characters, our DNAs are very similar in that we go for what is difficult and we make that possible.
Yes.
And no matter how much risk is there, and because that is how I built this company, that is where I want to see this company go to the stars, literally and figuratively. and we're going to make that possible. So, like, I thank you again for giving it time.
No problem. So I'll just send my secretary to draft the papers. Absolutely. But I think for now we need a much deserved lunch. Do you want to?
Yes, I'm very hungry, and like I hope that there is some proper lunch here.
No, there's quite a buffet.